5.1 FM. It's Friday, 15th of December, and the time has now just gone 10 o'clock. Welcome to Mother's Planet, a show where there is always something to talk about in a productive and beneficial way. I'm your host, Neelam, and joining me in the studio this morning is my guest, Caroline. Now, I will get Caroline to formally introduce herself a little later in the show, but first, good morning.
Good morning. Hello. I'm pretty pleased to be here today.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you so much for taking the time out to join me this morning. How's your week been?
It's been okay. I think I'm feeling quite tired. I'm ready for that break over the holidays. So all good.
I know I've actually physically started doing the countdown at home now, and it's just it's dragging on, and it doesn't help. I don't mind it being cold, but it doesn't help when we have rain.
Yeah,
I feel like it puts everything to halt when it rains in my household, because it's just and no one can walk. Everyone has to be taxied everywhere. So I don't like the rain. It doubles my workload. So.
Yeah, and I think it's also quite difficult for people's moods and.
Yes.
You know, for maybe people who are not feeling great anyway, if it's sort of grey and drizzly, it just really, it doesn't make you feel good.
Absolutely. Yep. When you don't see that sun outside and you see just cloud, it's quite gloomy out there, and it's not nice. Yeah, so it's been a dragging week for me. Did you feel the week dragged on, or do you think it went quite fast?
It was all right for me.
Yeah, well paced for you. No, I felt like it really dragged on, and you'd think with all the tasks that I had to get through, it'd be something that would have whizzed by for me, but it's just felt like it's dragged on. But it didn't stop me from getting experimental. I have to share this with everyone. I had my daughter's friends come for lunch yesterday, so she's on study leave at the moment from college, and so I said to her, why don't you just catch up with some of your friends? You know, they hardly get to catch up because they're always in different lessons at different times. So she called them around for lunch. So I said to her, I'll make some jacket potatoes and I'll just do a bit of tuna mayo and what have you. And I ran out of mayo. I didn't have any mayo, and I was like, oh goodness me, I can't mix the tuna into a mayo. So I thought, oh, actually, I'm going to make it. So I got experimental, and actually, it's better than the real thing. I don't like to brag about my own cooking, but it was really nice, and I'm really impressed. So I've now steriled a jar at home, and I said I'm going to make some, and I'm not going to be buying shop bought mayo anymore.
Excellent. You set yourself a high standard, though.
I have, yes, I know. I'm yet to because the kids didn't get to try it out because I'd made just enough to mix in the and so they said, let's do a blind test. Can you still buy the real thing and then make your own, and then we'll test to see which one's
that
nice.
Sounds good. What a shame you didn't bring some in this morning. We could have had a test.
We could have done a test
session today.
Yeah, I know. Don't tell Tarek, because he always says that to me. He's just like, if you're experimenting with food, we need to test it on Fridays in the morning in the studio. So yeah, but yeah, I'm quite impressed with myself. So I think that's what the holidays is going to be all about with me. It's just going to be getting experimental with things in the kitchen again. I'm not sure. Many of us are looking forward to the summer break, the winter break, summer break. I was speaking to a mum this morning, and she was saying to me, "You're doing a countdown, but I'm like holding on to each day, thinking, please just let it slow down." And I said, "Why?" She said, "Because when the kids are home, it's just constant feeding, and it's just." And she said, "Then you end up joining them." So she said, winter's hard enough as it is. You just want to eat because it's comfort eating, and then you've got the children at home that want to eat all the time, and then you just end up doing the same with them. And I was like, oh, I never thought of it that way, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for a lot of women, there's that kind of pressure of the build up of this is supposed to be this amazing time of year. And then the children are at home, so you've got to look after them. Sometimes you've got family coming round. It's quite full on, and it's like which are the days when the women get to have a rest, and somebody else does it for them.
I know, and I think that's. I mean, it's like that when it's Eid and any celebrations that we have like that. I think this year though, I'm really impressed because my mother-in-law said, "Let's do it different. Let's not cook." And I said to her, "Really?" And she said, "Yeah, let's just go." Because I mean, Inspire FM always arrange stuff in the parks, and they've got food being sold there and served there. And she said, let's just go. The kids can go and play on the rides. We can sit down at the table and have food served to us.
Fantastic.
And we did that this year. So it was it felt really difficult not to do it because I was like, oh gosh, So I did make a little bit, but not to have to host and have that washing up to do afterwards. It was quite, so I think we found a new way forward to celebrate Eid now, and it's quite nice to be able to do that. So maybe some families can do that this year, in over the festive period, get together like that and share the workload. I think that's the key thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the end of the day, it's about the being with the family or the friends, and if the woman's stuck in the kitchen all the time, everybody misses out then on her company.
Yeah, I caught up with a college friend, and I was asking her how her family was, and she said to me, they're good, but the irony is every time we get together as a family, it's all about feeding everyone and then cleaning up, and then it's time to go home. So she said we don't really get to actually catch up. And I was like, gosh, that sounds very familiar. Actually, I think that's the same in my household as well. So yes, so listeners, we are going to be talking about menopause this morning on our show, and I know it's a topic that many listeners have reached out to me to try and get. So Caroline is a representative of LAWC, who I will get to formally introduce herself and explain who that is. But her and I are just talking about menopause from personal experience and the knowledge that she has around this topic. Neither of us are medical experts on this topic. It's just a topic that we will both be discussing. So we are live on air, reaching out to all our listeners in Luton and surrounding areas through the airwaves at Inspire FM 105.1 FM. You can also connect to the show via TuneIn through the Inspire FM webpage, and we can also be heard on your smartphones via the Inspire FM app. Finally, we are also streaming live on Facebook, so you can and must leave a thumbs up on the show. And also you can leave any questions or comments that you have around today's topic. I am also taking in WhatsApp messages on the studio number 07779 481 822, and that's WhatsApp and text messages. So if you have any questions that you would like to share with us, you can contact us on that number. Now, menopause, it's been quite a taboo subject for many years, where women across different cultures have actually struggled in silence. It's not a talked about topic. I've got memories now as an adult, when I've understood a little bit about menopause, of what my poor mum must have gone through, but she did it all on her own. And I think it's important that we try and equip ourselves and educate ourselves around this topic. So I think we are going to be looking at some of the symptoms, the signs, and most importantly, how we can embrace this new chapter of our life. Now, before getting Caroline to talk about this, I think everyone wants to hear a bit more of your voice and less of mine. And can I get you to please introduce yourself to the listeners?
Yes, good morning, everybody. So I'm Caroline Cook. I'm the Chief Executive of Luton All Women's Centre. I was on this show during COVID times when we were doing it over Zoom, I think it was. So it's lovely to be in the studio face to face today. Yes. So at Luton All Women's Centre, we work mainly with women who've experienced some sort of abuse or trauma, or women who are struggling with their mental health. So that might be because of domestic abuse, childhood sexual abuse. Some women we work with have been trafficked, sexual violence, all sorts of things that it may be that women are experiencing those things now, and they actively need support in terms of what do I do? How do I sort of improve the situation? How do I get out of the situation? Or it may be women who've experienced things in the past, but in a sense they've never kind of dealt with that, and those things, as we know, if you've had significant trauma, those things don't go away, and at different times they come out, and as I say, many of the women we see who are struggling with their mental health, that's because of their early past traumas. And
do you think there's been an increase in women reaching out to your centre now, over the last couple of years? Do you think women are actually now getting the confidence to come forward and reach out for support?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, after the first lockdown with COVID, all the services locally, there was an absolute spike in sort of demand, and I'd say that's never gone down. I'm a bit sort of, thinking about coming on the show today. It's a bit like I want to come and reach women and talk about what we do, but it's also we are overwhelmed with referrals, and that goes for most of the women's services. So I think during lockdown times over the last 2 or 3 years, there's been a lot particularly about domestic abuse and mental health in the press, in the media. And I think women have learnt that actually it's not just them experiencing difficult things, that, it's something that happens for many women. And that also they've learned about what support is available, that there are services out there that, will help them, will give the support they need. So I think it's great that more women are coming forward asking for support. But it's we want to provide for as many women as we can. But services are struggling because we're a charity. Luton Women's Centre's been going for 30 years now.
Wow.
I haven't been there all that time. I've been there about 6 years. And we very much, our client group reflects the demographic of Luton. So we work with women from all the communities across Luton. And with most of our services, we're able to offer them in Urdu, Bengali and Polish, as well as working in English. So really, trying to reach as many as women as we can in all sorts of different ways, to try and think about, different parts of the community and how can we work in a way that would feel comfortable for any woman to walk through the door, and that she can feel welcomed and supported. And that's what I think we do. That's what our clients tell us. They have that experience of working with us.
And I think it's fantastic because going back to my parents' generation, I know that things like this weren't available and the network that they had were their neighbor friends and, the ladies in the community or the school mums. That was their network where they would just offload and, share their experiences. And that was it. So to have a formal setup where you know that you've got people that are trained in the field that can give you that support and that guidance or signpost you to the right places is fantastic. And I can understand why it's probably overwhelmed with women coming forward and I can imagine it coming to that point. Now, as well as domestic abuse and all these issues that women encounter, there's a huge one that they encounter in their life, which is menopause. And again, a taboo subject because, especially in the South Asian community, it's not a talked about topic. It's something that it's just a life change and you've just got to deal with it in a way. So I think more and more women now are coming forward and would like to know how to, be a bit more savvy in the field and understand how to cope with the changes. So what is menopause?
Right. Well, just before we come to that, so I've talked about some of the kind of specific sort of areas that we work with, where we offer support, but also a big part of what we do is to really try and address gender inequality in all its ways. And we do a lot of advocating for women because obviously we hear experiences and we try and make sure that women's voices are included in whether that's in the council developing new policies or strategies. And at the moment there's a real interest in women's health. This is something that I think there's some sort of some national funding. The NHS are taking this seriously. And back in 2021 the government did a consultation about women's health because it was decided there was going to be a new strategy and that women should be offered the opportunity to comment on that. And it was the biggest consultation in terms of responses they've ever had. It was massive, hundreds of thousands of responses. And it took, because of how many they got, it took them quite a long time. But in 2022, the new 10-year women's health strategy came out. And in there's a number of key areas which were the things that women were most concerned about or felt that there weren't the services within the NHS that were really addressing these things. And menopause was one of the, I think it was 8 priority areas. So that's been great because it's sort of given it a bit more of a formal platform, and it's given, whether it's GP surgeries or hospitals, whoever's dealing with women's issues that kind of might be associated with the menopause, there's now a bigger picture which says, actually this is important to women. Collectively, we're not doing good, we're not doing well enough, and let's really take a look. So that's been very helpful.
Yes.
And I mean, as you know, one of the things we sort of like to do at the Women's Centre is to help to start conversations about difficult topics. So, we do work around forced marriage, honour-based abuse, menopause, violence towards women and girls. And a lot of that is just going out and saying to women, and sometimes to men as well, that, it's okay to talk about these things. These things are happening for individuals and in our communities. And let's make them a bit less taboo.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's fantastic, and that's amazing that that kind of research was done, and the influx that was given in as a result there. And yes, I think when you start saying it more, it becomes less of a taboo subject. So it's part and parcel of life, and this is how it is. And I think when I did some research around the topic myself, which is my quote at the end of the show, but it's literally, it's a phase of life. It's not a disease. It's just something that we have to embrace. And I think it's because women, we feel that, there's constant changes in our life. You have, as a teen, you have to embrace your periods, and that brings on so many other changes in your life, your hormonal changes, your physical changes. And it's a stage of life that we have to just accept. Then motherhood hits you, and, you've got to raise a child, and all of that. So it just feels like women are constantly having to stop and reevaluate where they are at what stage of their life. And it's nice that we can actually now take that step and stop, because at each stage there are now places where you can have these conversations. There's a lot more mums and tots groups. There's a lot more prenatal groups and classes and sessions that are running now, where women that are going through that journey for the first time can talk about these things. So it's nice that at each chapter we're having that platform to be able to speak about it. So and I think, yes, menopause is one of the ones that we need to, both men and women need to educate. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. We were talking about that before the show, and I think it's really important that younger women also get themselves kind of a bit informed about it, not just for their own sakes, because obviously at some point, it'll be there for them, but also so that they can support and better understand, maybe if their mums or their aunties are going through the experience of menopause, that they actually understand about that, rather than it being this thing that kind of is a bit of a mystery, and maybe mum's acting not quite like she usually does. And as you say, for men as well, to get themselves a bit informed, so that hopefully they can be the kind of good supportive partners, because for some women, they sail through menopause, it's not an issue. For others, there can be particular struggles around it. And for those where there are challenges, to know you've got your family and your friends around you who can all hopefully understand and work with you around maybe some changes that will make things easier, then that's a good feeling.
Yes, absolutely. And I guess, many of us probably would like to know a little bit about what menopause is. I mean, we know that it's the bidding farewell, hopefully, to the menstrual cycle. That's the first step. But there's other things that come through it. So, I mean, roughly what are the typical age ranges that the onset of menopause in women starts?
Yeah, just before I come to that, I just wanted, when we were talking about the taboo of it being a sort of taboo subject, I just wanted to say something that my colleague told me, which I hadn't actually heard before, but she said that in Victorian times in this country, it was understood that women were not of sane mind when they were going through the menopause, and their ovaries were often removed. So if they were acting a bit different, so the removal of the ovaries was called a hysterectomy due to the word hysteria, about women acting in a different way. And they believed that this cured mental health disorders and nymphomania disorders, so women having sexual desires. And there were other things if the symptoms persisted, but it's a bit early in the day for those. So, but I thought that was interesting that, it's sort of one of those things that I think men historically have been quite frightened about women's things and women's bleeding. And it's like, oh, you've got to stop that at all costs, rather than being able to embrace the changes, as you say, at different phases.
Yes.
So menopause is really it's the phase where your periods stop completely. So before that, the perimenopause is the beginning of the process. So that's as your periods start to maybe sort of become irregular, you start to have some of the kind of symptoms of it. And the average age of menopause actually starting is between 45 and 55. So it can really vary. And for some women, there's also a condition called early onset menopause, which can be women in their 20s or 30s, and obviously brings, particular kind of issues, and really good medical support is needed to kind of understand what's happening.
I mean menopause, I have a friend who had breast cancer who's in remission, but part of her remission and treatment was that she had to force her body to go into menopause. So she's taking medication which stops her from menstruating, so she doesn't have periods. So she had literally 6 months to try and understand what's going to go on in her body, because everything that women, we have the perimenopausal phase, which is a couple of years before menopause. She didn't have that stage. She just went straight into menopause. And it was a very difficult stage. I mean, she's now a year and a half into it, so she laughs about it now. She can talk about the symptoms and she can say, oh yeah, I'm feeling this. And she says, she's only 41, but she says, I feel 50 sometimes. I can sympathize with those women that are saying, she'll come into my house and say, have you got the heating on? Turn it off. And then 5 minutes later, it's a bit cold, isn't it? And I'm like, oh gosh, is this what it's going to be like? So it's quite scary to watch women that have those hot flashes and those symptoms that you think, oh my gosh, is it going to be this bad? So, reassure us. Is it not going to be that scary?
Well, I think that's one of the great things about women coming together to talk about this. And we run a 6-week support group, and it's the only group we run which is open to any women to join. You don't have to be a client with us.
Okay.
And I'll say a bit more a bit later about how we're going to be sort of taking those groups out. But I think it's when you come and speak with other women, and it takes that fear away from what you might be experiencing, because you realize actually lots of women experience this, and there are things you can do to help yourself as well. And during the course, we talk about lots of things in terms of your diet, what you eat, about exercise, all these different things that it's good if women have thought about them, because it can make a difference to your experience of going through the menopause.
And that's, as you say, it normalizes some of the symptoms as well. Every woman will be feeling different things, and when you talk to other women about it and they say, oh yeah, actually I feel that, it reassures you that, oh, actually what I'm feeling is actually normal then, because some may and some may not. So it's quite nice to have that ground where you can. So I mean, I think we've got menopause, and then you have the perimenopausal, which I slightly touched on earlier on. These are the years that are different to menopause, and these are how long does perimenopause last for?
It's generally general advice is that if you're 40 plus, then you're probably sort of entering into the perimenopause phase. And those of you that are 40 or 41, you probably didn't want to hear that. But and it does vary. And for some women, it will be, quite a long, slow process. For others, it happens more quickly.
Yes.
So I think that's really important to know, that there isn't any particular way that women have these experiences. It's different for each of us.
Yeah. And listeners, if you are tuned in, apologies for that technical error. I will be having a firm word with Tarek later on about that. But it was just a technical glitch. But we are now, believe it or not, heading over to a short commercial break. If you are having a hot brew with me this morning, please go refill it. And I've had a couple of text messages come through saying we want the recipe of the mayo. So I have to share that at some point, I guess. So stay tuned in after the break. Assalamu alaikum.
This program will continue after the break. Continue listening to Inspire FM. Inspire FM.
Inspire 105.1 FM.
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Amin Marquis. I've had a great time on Inspire FM, and I think that one of the messages I wanted to promote was just finding yourself and finding your voice and not being afraid to speak out about issues that are prominent and pertinent to you. And of course, keep tuning into Inspire FM 105.1.
AK Windows South Limited, manufacturers and installers of high-quality UPVC windows and doors, bifold doors, composite doors, conservatories, porches, skypods, fascias, guttering, and much, much more. We specialize in double glazing and triple glazing using the best German profile. If you want quality at affordable prices, AK Windows is the place to go. If your house needs a facelift, you know who to trust. For a free quote, call AK Windows today on 01582 483 777 or visit us at Unit 10E, Britannia Estate, Leagrave Road, Luton.
Looking for a law firm that doesn't treat you like you're just any client and charge you excessive fees? At MB Solicitors, we're not just interested in your case, we're interested in you. Our lawyers work to get you the right result with personal injury, immigration, family, and civil litigation services. At MB Solicitors, we won't treat you like a client, we'll treat you like the client. So call Luton 415-836 or visit mbsolicitors.com to arrange your free consultation today.
Had an accident, a bump, trip or fall? Then you need Claims Specialists, your first choice for accident claims. The specialist claims company on Dunstable Road in Luton. With excellent access to expert solicitors and on a no-win, no-fee basis, Claims Specialists use their 30 years' experience to help get you the best compensation possible. For injuries at work, taxi, PCO and private hire incidents, road accidents and vehicle damage, medical negligence, plus rented housing disrepair. In short, when you need to make any claim, click on claimspecialists.co.uk or call 01582 733 222.
আপনি যদি সোশ্যাল হাউজিং এ থাকেন এবং একটি সমস্যা আপনাকে উদ্বিগ্ন করে, তাহলে জেনে নিন এটি কিভাবে জানাতে হয়। আপনি যদি আপনার বাড়িওয়ালার কাছে অভিযোগ করে থাকেন এবং আপনি তাদের চূড়ান্ত প্রতিক্রিয়াতে খুশি না হন, আপনি হাউজিং অম্বাজম্যানের কাছে এটি নিয়ে যেতে পারেন। গত বছর হাউজিং অম্বাজম্যান বাড়িওয়ালাদের বাসিন্দাদের ক্ষতিপূরণ হিসাবে £1 মিলিয়ন বেশি পরিশোধ করার নির্দেশ দিয়েছিল। প্রত্যেকেরই একটি নিরাপদ ও সুরক্ষিত বাড়ি প্রাপ্য। আপনার অধিকারগুলি জানুন। ভিজিট করুন gov.uk/social housing.
The cold weather is back, and so is Wrap Up. For the 8th year, in partnership with Hands on London, we're inviting you to spread the warmth across Luton. So drop off your spare coats at Safe Store Luton, Unit 12 Cosgrave Way, or Discover Islam, 37C Upper George Street. And we'll hand them over to charities that support people who are homeless, refugees, children living in poverty. We're collecting until the 24th of November 2023. Come spread the warmth with us. Visit humanappeal.org.uk to find out more.
أدب ملاحظة هوشيار
माजी हाल मुस्तकबिल की बातों के सुराग, इल्मी अदबी अफसाना शायरी और जिंदगी के राज, हवा की लहरों से बन के आवाज सुनिए हर जुमा दिन 4 बजे प्रोग्राम चराग।
From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 10:30.
Good morning and assalamu alaikum. It's Friday, 15th of December, and the time has now just gone 10:30. Welcome back to Mother's Planet. I'm your host, Neelam, and joining me on the show this morning is my guest, Caroline, who is from the Luton All Women Centre. We have been talking about menopause this morning, and I can't believe how quick the time has gone. It's gone super fast. If you do have any questions, that you'd like to ask us this morning, we are taking in WhatsApp and text messages on the studio number 07779 481 822. Any questions that you have for my guest or myself around menopause, please do message it in. We are also streaming live on Facebook, so you can leave your comments or questions on the Facebook page as well. Now, we've talked about the Luton All Women Centre running some workshops around menopause and the importance of being able to speak about it, and not just educating the women that are going through it, but the women that will be going through it, to be supports network. Now we have a phone call coming through, and I have no idea how to. I think I've pressed the right button there.
It stopped anyway.
It stopped, yeah. So that's the main thing. And also to educate the men out there, because interestingly, when I put the subject out, a lot of the men came back saying that it's talked about too much, and I like when you said that actually I don't think it's been talked about enough, but it's important for men to educate themselves so that they could be the correct support network. So I think when we say we have a phone call. Oh, okay. So there is a phone call that's come through, and okay. Hello, good morning. You're tuned into Mother's Planet this morning.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Good morning. To our sister. I didn't catch her name. Is it Karen?
Yeah, it's Caroline. Caroline Cook from the Luton.
Caroline.
Yes.
Okay. I'm Nazia. Perhaps not at all new to this subject or to the Women's Centre. So won't go too much into details of how ancient it makes me feel. But I'm alive and I'm kicking. And I want to share my experience of not only for the Women's Centre, but I'm so glad that the work is carrying on. And my hats off to all the people that carried on with our initial work that we started some years ago. It seems like yesterday, but it is a wonderful place for all women and men, to be honest with you, because women are the most amazing creature on this earth, because they bring up men. They bring up men when they have them as their own babies, and they bring them up when their dads are around, brothers are around, sons are around, and friends are around. So yes, my first take would be that no subject is a taboo subject. It's how we address it, how we make it into an issue, and yes, the more everybody shares their experience, however they want to experience. Some people like to put pen to paper, and nowadays there is no pens and no paper. My 60-year-old granddaughter, I'm very blessed, she was actually swiping as you would do on a phone or turning a page of a book. So yes, it's a shame. But nevertheless, they say that just like anything in life, the genius is the ability to put into effect what is in your mind, and there is no other definition about it. So I would say that you were talking about such a wonderful subject. The reason why I call it wonderful is because it's like a knock knock. Men, we are just taking a pause.
Yes.
So that becomes a menopause.
Yes, a pause from the men.
So not only that, it just gives us a such a hard time, tough time. Don't get me wrong. There is no gain without the pain. Some people suffer very badly, and I remember going through very badly, because there was very little help available, and there
Yes.
was very little courage that you could talk about it. Um, Although I'm extremely blessed that I brought up, as I said, that taking into consideration that it's never ever, um, kind of shutting the male people around in our lives. And I brought up three sons, so I was extremely blessed that they, when it came to that time, not that I had to kind of educate them, they just saw my conditions, or they are concerned people, so they took part in terms of however little they could. And my eldest son, he actually went me to the hospital, many visits, perhaps not my mother-in-law's son, but yes, my own son. Yes,
Oh.
he took me to hospital, and I would say, please don't fear any stages of your life. Embrace them, love them, and you will come through. Yes, there are times it's difficult, because it has poses lots of different symptoms for different women, and they become scared, being secret about it, because they think, oh, who can I talk to? What's happening to me? What's happening to my body? Why am I sweating a lot? Why am I
Yeah.
feeling all hot and bothered? Why my face gets all red when somebody looks at me? Or why am I so moody? Question is, moody because we are being tolerating and bearing other moods that are around us.
Yes.
So I would say that, go to your GP, talk to friends, talk to people that who may look ancient and have nothing to offer. But believe me, if you talk to them, they will have the most wonderful remedies for you. And I'm going to give you one as well that I experienced, and it helped as well. Although I had to go through surgery of hysterectomy and all that. That would be another subject perhaps one day you can open up.
Yep.
But other than that, yes, women, love your body, love your moods, love your family, love everything happening to your body, be it painful. Once we go through having a baby, nothing else is as challenging as we experience already. So don't be scared, and go with friends. Go, as Caroline was saying, that look after yourself, like take good care about your diet, exercise, and as I said, it's just like a pause. It actually gives us a chance to take time for ourselves.
Yes.
And look after us a bit more.
Yes.
And through that, you can take herbal remedies. And if it happens to be, some women go through very badly. My mother very secretly went through. She was really suffering, even as us daughters around her. She felt very shy to talk about it. So, I mean, think about their time, then our time, and then you younger lot time. I'm still very young, so don't get me wrong. So, it's all about mind over matter, and you can get through it. And as I said, take care of yourself and enjoy every phase of your life.
Thank you so
We are the
much.
most amazing creature on this planet.
Thank you so much for your words of wisdom there. I have no doubt that listeners really appreciated your personal experience there and personal advice. And thank you so much for calling in and sharing that with us this morning.
And also this women's center, I
Yeah.
would love to take part again, and please do leave, your number at the end of it, and also encourage women that if there are things that they are still able to do or can spare time, then it's a wonderful cause and it helps. We are here to just give a helping nudge, a smile, a beautiful, maybe just reaching out to each other, regardless of it's the technology world. So we don't have to be holding each other's hand in order to get through. So yeah, the offer is there.
Thank you so much. And I'll be sure that those messages come out to you. So we are limited for time. So I'm just going to turn over to my guest, but your call and comments have been really appreciated. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you for giving me time.
That's
Thank you
okay.
for that.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Wow, that's a first.
Oh, so you don't normally get calls?
No, I don't actually. I don't normally get calls, and I don't think I encourage them so much because I like to have the text messages so I can give my guests the time as well. But that was lovely of the sister to call in and share her experience.
Yeah, and big thank you for all her lovely comments about the work we do at the Women's
Yes,
Centre.
absolutely, and very kind of her to volunteer her own time at the end. So we'll touch on that at the end. I'm conscious of time now, so I think I'd really like to talk a bit about this workshop that you were saying, just so that people can hear about it.
Yes, absolutely. Just before we go on to that, I was just going to say a word about sort of some of the things that women can do to help alleviate some of the symptoms. And obviously on our courses we go into this in more detail. But in terms of food, with obviously you're losing the estrogen as you go through perimenopause, that sex hormone is kind of decreasing in your body. And one of the ways that you can kind of counterbalance that is by eating particular foods that have got phytoestrogens. I think that's how you say it. And that's a plant. These are plant-derived compounds, which are like a sort of low level of estrogen. And they're found in things like soybeans and soy-based products, peanuts, sesame seeds, flax seeds, chickpeas, berries, barley, apricots, and green and black tea. So a whole list of things which, by just increasing those, that's one thing you can do. Also, exercise is really crucial for maintaining and improving bone density, muscle tone, and for helping with your joints, to keep your joints supple. And also, it was mentioned about clothing and hot sweats, because obviously that's one of the most common symptoms that women experience, which is really not very pleasant. And again, it's thinking about the kinds of clothes you wear in terms of, what are they made from? Because certain fabrics obviously will make you feel even hotter, and thinking about layering so that you can easily take a layer or two off. And those sort of symptoms, if we're thinking about women who are in the workplace, sometimes that's very difficult because women don't always want to kind of share with everybody what's happening. But again, if you are able to talk to your manager, there are things like, could the heating in the office be adjusted? Could you sit somewhere where you're not by the radiator? If you do have a hot flush during a meeting, how might you cope with that? So if you feel comfortable to share that with your manager, there are kind of some things that can be adjusted to make the workplace easier for you.
And the fabric one, I just wanted to touch on a couple of points that you mentioned there. I had a friend who said that her bed linen was just, and then she found that actually when she turned to 100% cotton bed sheets, it was a life change. It was a game changer for her. So she changed her bed sheets to 100% cotton and found that actually that eased the hot flushes through the night. And one of the mistakes a lot of women, and my mum included, when it comes to exercise, they feel that they have to do high intensity cardio. And actually, I've told my mum off lots about this, because I said, you don't have to be skipping, running and doing that high intensity exercise. It's bone strengthening exercise. So just a few dumbbells on the side, on your hands, and just doing some bone strengthening exercise.
Absolutely. Low impact has been shown to have a really beneficial effect. So, it's not always about getting kind of hot and sweaty,
Yes.
but it's about the repetition at, just a few minutes every day even can start to have an impact. And the other exercise that is great for all these things is walking. Doesn't cost anything. Find a friend, go out to the park, and some sort of purposeful walking, not just wandering along looking at the ducks, but actually walk for 20 minutes or so. That lifts your spirits, and it does your bones good. It helps your whole body.
Yeah,
so I'm a great advocate. I'm a great walker.
Oh yeah, I know. And recently I have become the same, and I'm so pleased because my 3-year-old, when we go to nursery, she likes to walk, so she gets a bit annoyed if I bring the car.
Excellent.
So
Start her young.
So so she's like, "You've brought the car." I said, "Oh, sorry, it was raining, so I didn't." And she goes, "No,
I think she's going to be an eco warrior of the future.
I hope so too. So yeah, she's very fond of walking. So yes, the workshop. I mean, how it's just a bit of information about it, when it's running, how, and you said it's open to all. So I think that's something that everyone's going to be interested in.
Absolutely. So so we run a 6-week course, and the kind of purpose of the course is obviously partly to give information. So some of these kind of things that we've been talking about, to make sure that women are better informed, what's out there, what helps, what doesn't, looking at the kind of myths around menopause, but also having a look at sort of how you can feel more confident to talk to somebody in your workplace, to talk to your GP, to have those conversations with a partner, for example. And we also look at, for example, hormone HRT, hormone replacement therapy, which, some people are really for it, some are really against it, but it's just weighing up, understanding actually what it is, and might it be beneficial for you? And with any of these things, making sure that you have talked to your GP so that you get the right treatment for you. And just a bit of a word of warning that the menopause industry worldwide is thought to be worth about £600 billion. So there are a lot of products out there being sold which are not necessarily approved. So it's just a word of warning, particularly if you're buying anything online. Really make sure that you know what's in it, where it's sourced, where it comes from, because many of the products are just about somebody making money from it. Yeah, absolutely. So the courses that we run, the 6-week ones, we will from the new year be taking them out into the communities across Luton. And as I said, we'll be delivering them in Urdu, Bengali and Polish, where there's a kind of demand for that, as well as courses in English. And what we're hoping to do is to reach really groups of women in local areas, so we can, have the course. Actually, women have great fun when they come as well. It's not just all kind of being serious. And hopefully each one of those women who comes on the course will then spread that information through her network as well. So in that way, we can, really work to get communities much more informed about menopause overall.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's the key thing when courses like this are delivered, that it's not just a confined space for those people at that time. It's something that it's like Chinese whispers. It's going to go from here to go, carry on spreading. And I think that's the key, getting women out there to share their experience and knowledge. And I think the platform that you're creating here is fantastic, because, as you said, it's just getting women to talk, and women can talk.
Absolutely. And we find every group, whatever the subject is, actually there's a lot of laughter. And sometimes it's a relief. It's a relief that you can share things, and actually just women coming together, they laughed. We laugh, don't we?
Yes,
so,
that's it. And there's that hormone that gets released with laughter as well. I think it's oxytocin or whatever. I'm not very scientific myself, but it's the laughing hormone that gets released, and it's a good hormone. It's a feel-good hormone. So
Absolutely.
Even that, just having that in that time is all good. So I think it's important just having that space for the women. So in terms of the workshop, will it be via Zoom, or will it be how will you be executing the workshop?
We'll primarily be doing face-to-face courses. So as I say, we'll be starting in the new year. So we're just sort of looking at, areas and dates and everything. So they will be on our website, which is www.lutonallwomencentre.org.uk. So we've got a page already about menopause on there. So the dates will be there, and women will then be able to contact us, email in or phone in, and we can give them the information.
Okay.
I just wanted to give a sort of shout out as well for some other workshops that are happening in the new year. It's a national charity called Wellbeing of Women, and they do a lot of research around women's health, and they're delivering 1 hour face-to-face workshops, which is particularly aimed at employers. So people who want to come and learn, how can I improve my work situation? So particularly if you're an HR person, or somebody in the organization or in the business who can then go back and say, oh, actually, have we thought about this? We could do this. So 1 hour workshops. The next Luton one's the 17th of January. And you can go on their website to book that. So I can send you all the details after today.
Please do. And again, listeners, for those that are tuned in that don't have a pen and paper to hand, anything that is being missed out, I will ensure that it goes onto the Facebook link of the show as well. So that will be any website links and dates for any of those. So I guess just to wrap things up, menopause. Do you have some advice that you could give to women approaching menopause and help them navigate this stage of their life?
Yeah, well, when we're talking about menopause, we do sort of, as well as all the symptoms and the things we've talked about already, we do try to frame it that the age around which menopause kind of happens for most women is also a really significant one in terms of kind of life phases and changes that happen. And all of that is happening within a society where there are all sorts of pressures on women, around youth, around looking good, and it's sometimes very hard for women as they get older to feel positive and proud about that. And, women end up, as we know, spending money galore, like trying to look younger, whether that's they dye their hair or whatever it is they do. And actually part of this is about embracing getting older, being hopefully wiser and maturer. And the menopause kind of, it really makes women think about those things because it is a change. And for many women, perhaps their children have now grown up. They're not needed as a mother in the same way. So it's like, okay, well, this next bit, what's that going to be like? What do I want it to be like for me on my terms?
Yes.
So it's significant in that way.
Yes. And I think earlier we mentioned that, and the caller as well, that it's taking that pause and taking that step back and say, right, let's, reevaluate our life and our purpose and where we are. As I mentioned earlier, I did a show around women hitting 40, and that was a pinnacle stage for women, for many women in their life, where they reevaluated where they were and their purpose. So many went through a career change, many decided to stop working and do something different, set up businesses, be at home, all those changes. So I think, again, it's just that stage of your life where you just have to stop and reevaluate and just, assess and change. And I think the things that you've mentioned about clothing, food, diet, these are the things that become a bit more significant, because when you're hitting 40, it's there at the back of your mind that I should be eating a bit better, exercising. But this is the stage where you actually really do start taking care of yourself.
Absolutely. And something I didn't mention earlier was that if you're having issues or you're feeling concerned about something to do with menopause, do go and see your GP. And whilst we do hear quite a few women saying they don't have a good experience with their GPs because they can be dismissed, or it's maybe they're maybe not taken that seriously, there's also some fantastic GPs out there in Luton who are really sort of on top of it in terms of menopause. So I would say, if you're going about something to do with menopause, when you book your appointment, actually talk to the practice and say, could I see a doctor who really understands about menopause, because you should expect to get a good service and to be really listened to, and that's important.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the service. The NHS service is there for that, and there are banks of information out there as well on this whole information. So Caroline, we have actually reached the last 30 seconds of the show, and I just wanted to say a huge thank you. It's always having a pleasure having you on the show, and I feel like the hour's not enough. We could talk more and more. So hopefully in the new year, once the workshops run, we can touch base again and bring this topic again and let the listeners know how you got on.
That would be fantastic. And then I can maybe bring 1 or 2 women who've been on the courses,
Yes.
and they can talk about their experience as well.
Yes.
But thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Thank you. And so listeners, it won't stop there. We will keep bringing this topic on the show, and we will keep talking about it. But thank you for those that are tuned in this morning. My quote for you to menopause: when we talk and laugh about it, we learn and relax. It's a life transition, not a disease. Friday blessings to everyone. Assalamu alaikum.
The difference between a believer and one who does not believe is that the believer